The Galactic Council had ruled the known universe for 12,000 years. 7 elder species sat at the great table of power, and they believed themselves to be the most advanced beings in existence. The Valorians were tall and graceful, with silver skin that shimmered like moonlight. The Kethari were small creatures with 4 hearts and minds that could calculate faster than any machine. The Dromoon were beings of living crystal, beautiful and fragile. The Silith were ancient beyond measure, their bodies like flowing shadows. The Morthak were giants, slow and peaceful despite their size. The Kelian were masters of diplomacy, their voices like music, and the Yendri were keepers of history, remembering everything that had ever happened. Together, these 7 species had created a civilization of perfect peace. War had been forgotten. Violence was a distant memory from primitive times. Their ships were small and elegant, built for travel and trade, not battle. The largest vessel in the Council fleet measured only 300 meters, and even that was considered excessive. Weapons existed only in museums, relics of a barbaric past that no one wished to remember. On this particular day, in a monitoring station at the edge of known space, a young Kethari named Corveth was doing his job. He watched the screens that tracked signals from deep space, looking for anything unusual. It was boring work. Nothing ever happened at the edge of the outer rim. The universe was quiet and safe, just as it had always been. Then his screen flickered. Corveth leaned forward, all 4 of his hearts beating a little faster. A signal was coming from unexplored space. It was structured and repeating, which meant it was not natural. Someone or something was sending a message. He reported his finding to Ambassador Telos, the Valorian in charge of the station. Telos was old and experienced, and he had seen many strange signals over the years. Most turned out to be nothing important. He told Corveth to keep watching but not to worry. But the signal grew stronger. Over the next several hours, Corveth tracked it to its source. What he found made all 4 of his hearts stop at the same time. He checked his instruments again and again, certain that they must be broken. They were not broken. Something was coming toward Council space, something huge. Ambassador Telos did not believe the readings at first. He accused Corveth of making errors. He called for technicians to examine the equipment. But every test confirmed the same impossible truth. The object approaching them was a vessel of some kind, and it was larger than anything the Council had ever built, larger than anything they had ever imagined. The emergency signal went out to the Council homeworld. High Chancellor Yevros received the message in his private chambers. He was a Silith, over 300 years old, and he had guided the Council through countless small crises. But as he read the report, his shadowy form grew still. The numbers did not make sense. No civilization could build something so massive. It had to be a mistake. He called for an emergency session of the full Council. The great chamber filled with delegates from all 7 species. They floated in their hovering seats, arranged in a perfect circle around the central display. Yevros stood at the center, his voice calm despite the fear growing in his chest. "We have detected an unknown vessel approaching from unexplored space," he announced. "I want everyone to remain calm. We have encountered primitive species before. This is likely nothing more than a lost explorer from some young civilization." Then, he activated the display. The image that appeared showed the approaching vessel in full detail. It was shaped like a great arrow, with sharp angles and surfaces that seemed designed to deflect attacks. Along its sides were rows of objects that the Council's computers could not identify but suspected were weapons. Many, many weapons. A number appeared below the image. The vessel's length: 27 kilometers. The chamber erupted into chaos. Delegates shouted and screamed. Some fled toward the exits. Others sat frozen in their seats, unable to process what they were seeing. The Morthak delegate, the largest being in the room, actually fainted. Yevros called for order, but his voice was lost in the noise. It took several minutes for the guards to restore calm. When the delegates finally settled down, their faces showed pure terror. "This cannot be real," said Delegate Kethmora of the Dromoon, her crystal body flickering with distress. "No species could build such a thing." What purpose would it serve? War, said Ambassador Telos quietly. He had arrived from the monitoring station to deliver his report in person. The word hung in the air like poison. War. The Council had not spoken that word seriously in 10,000 years. They had evolved beyond such primitive behavior. They had created a perfect society where conflict was unnecessary. But now, conflict was coming to them, whether they wanted it or not. What do we do? Asked Delegate Sylvan of the Kelian. We have no weapons. We have no defenses. If this vessel attacks us, we will be destroyed. Yevros raised his hand for silence. We do not know their intentions. Perhaps they come in peace. As if in answer to his words, a new message appeared on the display. The unknown vessel was broadcasting a signal, and the Council's translation computers had decoded it. The message was simple, written in perfect galactic standard. We come in peace. Requesting diplomatic contact. For a long moment, no one spoke. They know our language, whispered Kethmora. They have been listening to us, watching us. For how long? No one had an answer. Yevros stared at the massive vessel on the display. Its weapons bristled along its hull like thorns on a deadly flower. Its engines burned with power that the Council's scientists could not explain. Everything about it spoke of violence and destruction. And yet, its message spoke of peace. We will respond, Yevros decided. We will invite them to send representatives. We will learn who they are and what they want. He paused, his ancient eyes fixed on the impossible ship. And we will pray that their words are true. The message was sent. The Council waited. And in the cold darkness of space, the massive vessel changed course and headed directly toward them. Inside its hull, creatures called humans prepared for the moment they had been waiting for, the moment when they would finally meet their neighbors among the stars. None of them knew that this meeting would change the galaxy forever. None of them knew that the universe would never be the same again. The signal had been answered. First contact was about to begin. Captain Daniel Torres stood on the bridge of the USS Horizon and watched the stars pass by on the main screen. He was 43 years old, with gray at his temples and lines around his eyes that told stories of battles fought and friends lost. He had served in the United Earth Navy for 20 years, commanding ships in conflicts that most civilians had never heard about. But nothing in his long career had prepared him for this moment. The Horizon was humanity's pride and joy. 27 kilometers of advanced technology, carrying enough firepower to crack a planet in half. She was one of 47 Titangent-class vessels in the Earth fleet, built to protect humanity from the dangers that lurked between the stars. Her crew numbered over 15,000, and every single one of them had volunteered for this mission. First contact with an unknown civilization. The biggest moment in human history since they had left Earth. Commander Katie Lewis walked up beside him, her tablet in hand. She was his first officer. A woman of 38 with sharp eyes and a sharper mind. Torres trusted her completely. We've received their response, Captain, she said. They're inviting us to send representatives to something called the Council Station. It's a diplomatic hub, apparently. Neutral ground. Torres nodded slowly. What do we know about them? 7 distinct species, all working together. They call themselves the Galactic Council. They've been in charge of this part of space for about 12,000 years. Lewis paused, checking her notes. And Captain, their ships are tiny. The biggest vessel we've detected is maybe 300 meters long. They have almost no weapons that we can identify. Torres absorbed this information in silence. Humanity had clawed its way up from the ruins of 3 world wars. They had survived 2 asteroid impacts that nearly ended their species. They had fought a brutal decade-long war against the Centauri, an alien race that had attacked without warning or mercy. Every lesson had been learned in blood and fire. These council species had known nothing but peace for 10,000 years. They had no idea what they were looking at when they saw the horizon. They must be terrified, Torres said quietly. Wouldn't you be, sir? He almost smiled. I suppose I would. Lieutenant Ryan Cooper turned from his communications station. He was young, barely 30, but he had a gift for languages that made him invaluable. "Captain, the Council is asking us to reduce our vessel's presence. I think they want us to send something smaller." Torres understood. The Horizon carried 42 escort ships in her landing bays, each one armed and armored for combat. Even the smallest of them was larger than most Council vessels. Sending the whole fleet would look like an invasion. "Tell them we'll send a diplomatic shuttle," he ordered. "Just one, and make sure they know we mean no harm." He turned to face his bridge crew. These were the people he trusted with his life. Lieutenant Amy Vasquez, his tactical officer, sat at her station with calm readiness. Dr. Nathan Park, the chief science officer, was already analyzing every piece of data they had collected about the Council species. They were professionals, all of them, trained to handle anything. "Vasquez, you're with me," Torres said. "We're going to meet our new neighbors." Vasquez nodded and rose from her seat. She was small but fierce, with dark hair pulled back in a tight braid. Torres had seen her fight hand-to-hand against Centauri warriors twice her size. She was afraid of nothing. Dr. Park stepped forward before they left. "Captain, a word." Torres paused. "These species have not fought a war in over 10,000 years, Park said softly. "Their entire society is built on peace and cooperation. They have deliberately removed aggression from their cultures. Some of them have even modified their own genetics to eliminate violent tendencies." "What are you telling me, Doctor?" Park hesitated. "I'm telling you that when they look at us, they won't see explorers or diplomats. They'll see predators. Everything about human biology screams danger. Our forward-facing eyes, our endurance, our pack-hunting instincts. We evolved to chase prey across open plains until it collapsed from exhaustion. To them, we might be the most terrifying creatures they've ever encountered." Torres considered this carefully. "Then we'll have to show them who we really are. Not what evolution made us, but what we chose to become." He left the bridge with Vasquez at his side. The shuttle bay was enormous, a cathedral of metal and light that could hold a small city. Their diplomatic shuttle sat waiting, sleek and fast, designed for speed rather than combat. Torres climbed aboard and took the pilot's seat. Vasquez sat beside him, running final checks on their equipment. "Nervous, Lieutenant?" Torres asked. Vasquez shook her head. "No, sir. Excited. We're about to make history." Torres powered up the engines and guided the shuttle out of the Horizon's bay. As they emerged into open space, he saw the Council station for the first time. It was beautiful, a delicate structure of curves and spirals that looked like frozen music. Lights twinkled along its surface like stars brought down from the sky. It was also tiny. The entire station was smaller than one of the Horizon's engine sections. "They really don't build big, do they?" Vasquez murmured. Torres guided the shuttle toward the docking port that the Council had designated. As they approached, he could see small vessels fleeing in all directions, their pilots desperate to get away from the human craft. He felt a pang of sadness. They had come so far, survived so much, only to be greeted with terror. But he understood. He would feel the same way if a ship 27 kilometers long appeared over Earth. The shuttle docked with a gentle thump. Torres took a deep breath and stood up. Behind that airlock were beings who had never known war, never felt the desperation of fighting for survival. They had lived in paradise for 12,000 years, and now they had to face humanity. "Ready, Lieutenant?" Torres asked. Vasquez checked her sidearm one last time, then nodded. "Ready, sir." Torres opened the airlock. The moment of first contact had arrived. The galaxy would never be the same again. And somewhere in the back of his mind, Torres hoped that this meeting would go better than humanity's last first contact. The war with the Centauri had cost millions of lives on both sides before peace was finally achieved. He stepped through the airlock into the station, ready to meet the future. Ambassador Telos had served the Galactic Council for over 200 years. He had met representatives from dozens of species. He had negotiated treaties, resolved disputes, and guided civilizations toward peace. He thought he understood the universe and everything in it. He was wrong. When the human shuttle docked with the council station, Talos felt his silver skin grow cold. The shuttle alone was massive, larger than most Valorian transport ships. Its hull was thick and armored, designed to survive impacts that would destroy any council vessel. It moved with a confidence that spoke of power beyond measure. And then the airlock opened, and the humans stepped through. Telos had seen images of them, of course. The council had studied their broadcasts, learned their language, observed their behavior from a distance. But nothing could have prepared him for the reality of meeting them face to face. They were tall, almost as tall as the Morthak giants. Their bodies were thick with muscle, built for strength and speed. They moved with a fluid grace that reminded Telos of predators he had seen in nature recordings, creatures that hunted and killed without mercy. Their eyes faced forward, the mark of hunters who tracked prey by sight. Every step they took was purposeful, controlled, dangerous, but it was not their bodies that terrified Telos the most. It was their eyes. Those eyes scanned the chamber the moment they entered. Telos watched the humans catalog every exit, every delegate, every possible threat. They did this without thinking, without conscious effort. It was instinct, burned into their very nature. These were beings who had evolved to survive, to fight, to overcome any obstacle. Violence was written into their blood, and yet, behind that predator's gaze, Telos saw something else, something that confused and amazed him. He saw kindness, restrained, controlled, but unmistakably present. These humans were not monsters. They were warriors who had chosen peace, predators who had learned mercy. That combination was more terrifying than pure aggression would have been. Captain Torres stepped forward and offered a small bow of his head. The gesture was respectful, humble even. When he spoke, his voice was calm and warm. "High Chancellor, honored delegates, I am Captain Daniel Torres, of the United Earth vessel Horizon. On behalf of humanity, I thank you for receiving us." High Chancellor Yevros found his voice, though it shook despite his best efforts. "Captain Torres, we welcome you to the Council Station. Your arrival has raised many questions. Your vessel is unlike anything we have ever seen." Torres nodded as if he had expected this. "The Horizon is an exploration ship, built to travel far from home and survive whatever we might find. Humanity learned long ago that the universe can be dangerous. We built our ships to protect ourselves." Delegate Kethmora leaned forward in her seat. Her crystal body flickered with nervous light, colors shifting rapidly across her surface. "Protect yourselves? From what? The galaxy has been at peace for 12,000 years. The human woman beside Torres, the one called Lieutenant Vasquez, exchanged a brief glance with her captain. Something passed between them, a shared understanding that the council delegates could not read. "In our experience," Torres said carefully, "peace is not the natural state of the universe. It is something that must be built and defended. We have worked very hard to achieve peace with our neighbors. We hope to achieve the same with you. We hope to achieve the same with you." A heavy silence fell over the chamber. Ambassador Telos finally spoke the question that burned in everyone's mind. "Captain Torres, how many ships like the Horizon does your species possess?" Torres did not hesitate. 47 Titangent-class vessels are currently in service. Another 12 are being built. When plied, the chamber exploded into chaos. Delegates screamed and shouted. The Dramoon representative's crystal form cracked with stress. The Kellyan fell out of his floating chair. Even the massive Morthak delegate, who had finally recovered from his earlier faint, went pale and began to tremble. Telos felt his heart racing. 47 ships like the Horizon. Each one 27 kilometers long. Each one armed with weapons that could destroy worlds. The entire council fleet combined would be nothing more than dust against such power. And there were more being built. High Chancellor Yevros raised his hands for silence. It took many minutes for order to be restored. When the chamber finally grew quiet, every eye was fixed on the two humans standing at its center. "Captain Torres," Yevros said slowly, "I must ask you directly. What are your intentions? Why have you come here? Torres met the Chancellor's gaze without flinching. We came because we detected your civilization and wanted to introduce ourselves. Humanity has been alone for a very long time. We have fought wars that nearly destroyed us. We have faced enemies that wanted nothing but our extinction. And through it all, we dreamed of finding other intelligent life. Life that we could befriend rather than fight. He paused, looking around the chamber at the terrified faces of the delegates. We know that our appearance is frightening, Torres continued. We know that our ships and weapons seem like threats. But I give you my word as a captain of the United Earth Navy. We did not come here to conquer. We did not come here to destroy. We came here to make friends. Lieutenant Vasquez stepped forward. In the 200 years since humanity developed faster than light travel, we have made contact with 43 intelligent species. 39 of them are now part of our coalition, living and working alongside us as equals. We do not enslave. We do not dominate. We protect. Protect? Kethmora asked. Protect from what? Vasquez's expression grew dark. From the things that live in the spaces between stars. From civilizations that see weakness and hunger to exploit it. From dangers that you have never faced because you have never ventured far enough to find them, the delegates murmured among themselves. This was not what they had expected. They had imagined conquerors, destroyers, monsters from the void. Instead, they were facing warriors who spoke of friendship and protection. Yevros studied the humans for a long moment. He was old and wise, and he had learned to read the truth in the faces of countless species. What he saw in Captain Torres was genuine. The human meant every word he said, but that only raised more questions. Captain Torres, Yevros said, you speak of dangers and enemies. You speak of wars that nearly destroyed your species. We have known nothing but peace for thousands of years. How can you expect us to understand the universe you describe? Torres smiled sadly. I don't expect you to understand, Chancellor. Not yet. But I hope that in time, you will see that having powerful friends is better than being alone. The galaxy is vast, and not everyone out there wants peace. He looked up at the viewport, where the distant shape of the horizon hung against the stars like a sleeping giant. We learned that lesson the hard way. We hope you never have to. The meeting continued for many hours, but the tone had changed. Fear remained, but it was mixed now with something else. Curiosity. Hope. The beginning of trust. First contact had been made. The real work was just beginning. In the days that followed first contact, the Council requested that the humans share their history. They wanted to understand these strange beings who built warships the size of cities, but spoke of friendship and peace. High Chancellor Yevros arranged for a special session where the humans could tell their story. Dr. Nathan Park was chosen to deliver the presentation. He was a scientist, calm and precise, with a gift for explaining complex things in simple ways. He stood at the center of the great chamber, surrounded by delegates from all 7 council species, and began to speak. Our species is called human, he said. We come from a small blue planet called Earth, located in a region of space that you have not yet explored. Our civilization is young compared to yours. We have only been traveling among the stars for about 200 years. The delegates nodded. This was not surprising. Young civilizations often expanded quickly when they first discovered space travel. But our history before we reached the stars, Park continued, was not peaceful. He activated the display, and images appeared in the air around him. Images of cities burning. Images of mushroom clouds rising into poisoned skies. Images of dead bodies piled in mass graves. Humans evolved as predators, Park explained. We hunted to survive. When we formed societies, we fought each other for resources, for territory, for power. For most of our history, war was constant. Nations rose and fell. Empires conquered and were conquered in turn. Millions died in conflicts that seem pointless to us now. The delegates watched in horrified silence. Violence on such a scale was beyond their comprehension. The council species had eliminated aggression from their cultures thousands of years ago. The idea of intelligent beings deliberately killing each other was almost impossible to process. Park showed them the Third World War. Nuclear weapons had devastated entire continents. Billions of people had died in the initial exchange, and billions more had perished in the long winter that followed, when dust and ash blocked the sun for nearly a decade. Human civilization had collapsed. The survivors had been reduced to scattered groups struggling to stay alive in a frozen wasteland. "We nearly went extinct," Park said quietly. "If a few brave people had not preserved our knowledge and technology, humanity would have disappeared forever." He showed them the rebuilding. Slowly, painfully, humans had crawled out of the ruins. They had relearned everything their ancestors had known. They had built new cities, new nations, new hope, and they had sworn that they would never let such destruction happen again. "We went to the stars because Earth was no longer safe," Park explained. "Asteroid impacts had nearly destroyed us twice. Wars had nearly destroyed us 3 times. We knew that if we stayed on one planet, something would eventually kill us. So we spread out. We colonized Mars, the moons of Jupiter, distant planets around other stars. We made sure that no single disaster could end our species." Delegate Keth Mora raised a trembling hand. "This is terrible." "But you said you achieved peace. How? If your nature is so violent, how did you stop fighting?" Park smiled sadly. "We did not stop being violent. We learned to control it. We channeled our aggression into exploration, into building, into protecting what we had created. And then we met the Centauri." The display changed to show images of alien beings. They were tall and thin, with 4 arms and eyes that burned like red fire. They were beautiful in a terrible way, like storms or earthquakes were beautiful. "The Centauri attacked our colonies without warning," Park said. "They did not want to negotiate. They did not want resources or territory. They simply wanted to destroy us. In their culture, only the strongest deserved to exist. They saw humanity as weak and decided to eliminate us." He showed them the war. Human ships burning in the void, colonies reduced to rubble, civilians fleeing in terror as Centauri warriors hunted them through the streets. "The war lasted 10 years, Park said. "We lost millions of people. Entire worlds were destroyed. At our darkest moment, we developed weapons capable of destroying planets. We called them Starbreakers. A new image appeared, a weapon of terrible power, a device that could shatter a world into fragments. We had the ability to destroy the Centauri homeworld," Park said. "We had the power to end their species forever." Delegate Sylvan of the Kelian whispered the question everyone was thinking. "Did you use it?" Park shook his head. "No. We chose a different path. Instead of destruction, we offered peace. We showed the Centauri that we could destroy them, but chose not to. We proved that strength without mercy was meaningless. But strength combined with compassion could build something lasting." He showed them the peace treaty. Human and Centauri leaders standing together, signing documents that ended the bloodshed. Former enemies learning to work alongside each other. The beginning of what would become the United Earth Coalition. "The Centauri are now our closest allies," Park said. "Their warriors fight beside ours. Their scientists work with our scientists. We are stronger together than either of us was alone." He paused, letting his words sink in. "You asked how we achieved peace. The answer is simple. We became so powerful that fighting us was pointless. But we also showed that we valued peace above victory. We do not conquer because we do not need to. We do not enslave because we do not want to. We protect because that is who we chose to be." Commander Lewis stepped forward to address the council. She had remained silent during Park's presentation, but now she felt the need to speak. "You see our warships and feel fear," she said. "We understand. But I want you to consider something. In 2 centuries of space travel, humanity has encountered 43 intelligent species. 39 of them joined our coalition willingly, as equals and partners. We fought 6 defensive wars against hostile civilizations, and we won every single one. But we have never conquered a peaceful species. We have never enslaved anyone. We have never committed genocide, even when we had the power to do so. She looked around the chamber at the frightened faces of the delegates. We are not what you fear, Lewis said firmly. We are what stands between you and what you should fear. There are things out there in the darkness between stars, civilizations that would look at your peaceful council and see nothing but easy prey. You have been lucky that you have not encountered them yet. High Chancellor Yevros finally spoke. His voice was heavy with the weight of everything he had heard. You are saying that the galaxy is more dangerous than we ever imagined. Lewis nodded. Yes, Chancellor. The galaxy is beautiful, but it is also cruel. Peace is possible, but only if someone is willing to defend it. Humanity learned this lesson through centuries of suffering. We do not want you to learn it the same way. The chamber was silent for a long moment. Then, slowly, Delegate Kethmora rose from her seat. Her crystal body had stopped flickering. Her colors were calm and steady. I believe them, she said. I have studied their eyes, their movements, their words. These humans are dangerous, yes, but they are also honest. They could have lied to us. They could have hidden their power and their history. Instead, they showed us everything, even the parts that make them look like monsters. She turned to face the other delegates. Why would they do that if their intentions were hostile? They could destroy us with a single ship. They do not need our trust or our friendship. The fact that they want it tells me that they are exactly what they claim to be. The delegates murmured among themselves. Some agreed with Kethmora. Others were still too frightened to think clearly. But the seed of trust had been planted. Humanity had shown the Council its darkest chapters. Now the galaxy would decide what to do with that truth. 3 weeks had passed since the humans first arrived. 3 weeks of negotiations, discussions, and debates that shook the foundations of everything the Council believed. The delegates had argued until their voices gave out. They had reviewed every piece of information the humans had shared. They had prayed to whatever gods their species believed in for guidance. Now the time had come to make a decision. The great chamber was full. Every seat was occupied. Representatives from all 7 council species had gathered, along with observers from hundreds of smaller civilizations that existed under council protection. This was the largest assembly in 1,000 years. Captain Torres stood with his delegation near the entrance. Ambassador Lisa Hartwell had arrived from Earth to handle the formal diplomacy. She was a former senator, a woman of 60 with gray hair and sharp eyes. She had negotiated humanity's alliance with the Centauri after the war, turning bitter enemies into trusted friends. If anyone could bridge the gap between humanity and the Council, it was her. High Chancellor Yevros floated to the center of the chamber. His shadow-like body seemed heavier than usual, weighed down by the importance of this moment. When he spoke, his voice carried to every corner of the room. For 12,000 years, the Galactic Council has maintained peace through isolation and caution. We removed violence from our societies. We built no weapons. We avoided the dangerous regions of space. We believed that this was wisdom. He paused, letting his words settle over the assembly. The arrival of humanity has forced us to question everything we thought we knew. They have shown us that the universe is not the safe place we imagined. They have revealed threats that we never knew existed. They have demonstrated power beyond anything in our experience. A murmur ran through the chamber. Some delegates looked terrified. Others looked hopeful. All of them looked uncertain. Yevros continued. But they have also shown us something else. They have shown us that power does not have to mean cruelty. They have proven that warriors can choose peace. They have offered us friendship when they could have demanded submission. He turned to face the human delegation. Torres stood tall, his face calm but his eyes watchful. Hartwell smiled slightly, a diplomat's mask that hid whatever she was truly feeling. Lieutenant Vasquez stood behind them both, her hand resting casually near her weapon out of pure habit. The humans ask nothing from us, Yevros said. No tribute, no territory, no resources. They ask only for friendship and the freedom to explore alongside us. They offer protection against threats we cannot even comprehend. He looked around the chamber at the assembled delegates. I have lived for 3 centuries. I have guided this council through countless decisions. But I have never faced a choice as important as this one. The question before us is simple. Do we accept humanity's offer of alliance? Quote, Delegate Kethmora was the first to speak. She rose from her seat, her crystal body glowing with soft light. I have spent these past weeks studying the humans. I have watched recordings from the Outer Rim and beyond. I have seen what lurks in the darkness of unexplored space. She shuddered, colors rippling across her surface. There are civilizations out there that make us look like children playing in a garden. Species that consume entire worlds, machines that hunt organic life across the galaxy. Horrors that we cannot even imagine. The chamber grew deathly quiet. The humans know these dangers, Kethmora continued. They have fought them. They have won. They are offering to stand between us and the darkness. She straightened, her form solidifying with determination. I cast my vote in favor of alliance. One by one, the delegations added their voices. The Valorians voted yes. Ambassador Telos stood and declared that his people had seen enough of human honor to trust their intentions. The Silith voted yes. An ancient elder spoke of prophecies from before the council's founding, warnings of a time when the peaceful races would need protectors from beyond the stars. The Morthak, giants who had remained silent through every debate, voted yes. Their delegates simply said that anyone who could build ships like the Horizon and still choose peace deserved respect. The Kilian voted yes. Delegate Sylvan praised the humans' willingness to share their darkest history, calling it a sign of true courage. The Yendri voted yes. As keepers of memory, they recognized that humanity's past, however violent, had led them to become exactly what the galaxy needed. Only one delegation remained. The Dramoon had been silent throughout the session. Their representative, a being of pale blue crystal named Vareth, had not moved or spoken since the proceedings began. The chamber held its breath. Slowly, Vareth rose. His crystal body chimed softly as he moved, producing notes that sounded almost like music. I have heard everything, Vareth said. The arguments for alliance, the arguments against, the fears and the hopes, and I have made my decision. He turned to face Captain Torres directly. Human, I want you to answer one question. If we vote against this alliance, if we send you away and close our borders, what will you do? Torres stepped forward. He did not hesitate. We will leave in peace. We will respect your wishes, and we will hope that you never need the protection we offered. Vareth studied him for a long moment. And if something attacks us? Some threat from the darkness that we cannot handle? Will you come back to help us? Torres met his gaze steadily. Yes, without hesitation, because that is who we are. The crystal being's body rang with a clear, bright note. That is the answer I needed to hear. The Dramoon vote yes. The chamber erupted into applause and cheers. Delegates who had been terrified only weeks ago now celebrated the dawn of a new era. For the first time in 12,000 years, the council had allies who could truly protect them. Ambassador Hartwell stepped forward to address the assembly. Her voice was warm but serious. On behalf of the United Earth Coalition, I accept your friendship with honor and gratitude. We swear to defend you as we defend ourselves. Your enemies are now our enemies. Your safety is our sacred duty. She smiled, and for a moment, the tough diplomat disappeared, replaced by a woman who genuinely believed in what she was doing. Welcome to the family. Later that evening, Captain Torres stood on the observation deck of the council station, watching the stars. The horizon hung in the distance, her massive hull glittering with running lights. Around her, 7 council vessels had taken up formation, the first joint patrol in galactic history. Ambassador Hartwell joined him by the viewport. You did it, Daniel. First contact, and nobody died. That might be a record for humanity. Torres smiled slightly. We got lucky. These people wanted peace as much as we did. Not every first contact goes this well. No, Hartwell agreed. But this one did. And that matters. They stood in silence for a moment. watching the ships move together through the void. "What happens now?" Torres asked. Hartwell considered the question. "Now we keep our promises. We protect them. We show them that trusting us was the right choice." She paused. "And we pray that when the real threats arrive, we're strong enough to stop them." Torres thought about the things humanity had encountered in its 2 centuries of space travel. The Centauri had been just the beginning. There were ancient machines that drifted through dead star systems, waiting to reactivate. There were species that existed as pure thought, consuming the minds of anyone who ventured too close. There were things in the dark that even the Tangent-class warships approached with caution. The Council had no idea what was out there. But they would learn, and when they did, humanity would be there to help them face it. "We'll be ready," Torres said. Outside the viewport, the joint patrol began to move. Human and Council vessels traveling together into the unknown. It was a small step, the first of many. But it was a step in the right direction. The galaxy was vast and dangerous, but it was no longer facing that danger alone. Humanity had found new friends among the stars, and they would stand together against whatever the universe could throw at them. This was just the beginning of a new chapter. A chapter written in hope instead of fear. And for the first time in 12,000 years, the galaxy had protectors worthy of the name. The future was uncertain, but it was bright. And somewhere in the depths of space, a Tangent-class warship sailed onward, carrying humanity's promise to the stars: peace through strength, friendship through trust, protection for all who needed it. This was humanity's gift to the galaxy. And the galaxy would never be the same again.